Hello, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the Premier League show here on the James Johnstone Football Channel. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Yes, and there at the bottom, just like Sky Sports News, there's the ticker with all the scores from last week as well. So, going into it, the very first week of the Premier League, we kicked off with Burnley playing Manchester City, and it was a baptism of fire here for Vincent Kompany playing against his former side, Man City. And to start off nice and early, City score from you know who. It's Erling Haaland with his very first touch of the game. It was a lovely ball from Kevin De Bruyne to find its way into Rodri, who headed it onto Haaland to score. De Bruyne, sadly, he got another horrible injury for himself. It's happening a lot now as he's getting older. You know, he's hit that age of 32, which I'm turning next month, but everyone seems to think he's old. But yeah, he's getting a few too many injuries now these days, and sadly, he's picked up another one. The second goal for Manchester City, it was a lovely barring-in finish again from Erling Haaland, and it's a great bit of work from Kyle Walker into Alvarez to set it up. And as always, the barring-in finishes, they're always better, aren't they? They look better when they go in. Rodri scored Manchester City's third goal. It was a bit of a pinball sort of situation in the box from the set piece, but it fell to Rodri, who then slotted it home. The red card for Burnley, I can't believe he didn't give it straight away, the referee. I was honestly baffled that this went to VAR and he didn't give him the straight red. It was an absolutely cynical and stupid foul from Zaroury for Burnley. And again, it just shows the incompetence of the refereeing in this country. Off the field, there were two horrible incidents there from Burnley. One of them was obviously the pre-game booing of the knee from their fans, which I thought Vincent Kompany handled brilliantly in the post-game and subsequent press conferences that he's done since. And then also, I think it was either a lighter or a vape that was thrown from one of their fans at Rico Lewis. And they also had a fan run onto the pitch and try and grab players as well. So yeah, it wasn't a good time off the pitch as well as on the pitch for Burnley. Burnley for me though, this season, I think they're going to be safe. Yes, they got beat, but they've arguably just played the best side in the world. And I thought they held their own, Burnley, for quite a while, and they created some chances. I was impressed with Amdoni up front for them. He looks like a very quick and tricky player. I think he'll score goals in this league. And then City, they've had another Kevin De Bruyne injury, like I said, but they look to be splashing out. I mean, they have been linked with Paqueta, but good morning, Mike. Morning. But yeah, they've been linked with Paqueta, and I know there's been some controversy over the last day about Paqueta potentially getting himself a yellow card, and he's part of some kind of betting syndicate or gambling. It's all allegedly. I don't really know, but he looks like he could have squandered his potential big move to Manchester City and then squandered potentially playing for West Ham at the same time. It looks like he could get a ban just like Tony's got one. But they do look like they're also signing Doku that looks to be coming in to fill that Mahrez hole and that void. But Burnley, for me, they've got enough, but they'll be fine. They'll definitely be fine. And Manchester City, we all know that they've won the Super Cup this week, and they've got plenty in the pocket. They're going to spend money. If they don't get Paqueta, Man City, they're going to spend 90 million or 100 million on somebody else. Yes, I like that. Very good, Mike. But yeah, the next game, obviously, I did this in a long form the other day with Melvin, Mike, and Neil, so you can watch that for more in-depth analysis. It was Arsenal, Nottingham Forest. It was a lovely goal from Eddie Nketiah, and then an even better goal from Bukayo Saka. Nottingham Forest, they got one back near the end after great work from Alanga, and Awoni tucked it in. I said it the other day on the podcast, but I thought Martinelli was sublime, especially that first half. He ran the show for me, Gabriel Martinelli. I thought he was fantastic in that game. And Forest, I'm always impressed when I watch Nottingham Forest, especially towards the end of last season up to now. I do like Morgan Gibbs White as a player. I think Brennan Johnson's a very good player, and he had a great chance. He should have scored in the first half as well. So then we're going into Newcastle versus Aston Villa. Obviously, this was a big showpiece for Newcastle United, and Newcastle scored first through Sandro Tonali on his debut. It was a lovely initial save from Martinez, but Villa, they're completely asleep in the second phase of this build-up of play. Gordon goes out wide and he whips in the cross to Tonali, who heads it in. Tonali, he should have had a second straight after, but Martinez again made a nice save. Diaby, he hit a lovely equaliser. It was a lovely ball from Douglas Luiz into Digne. Digne crossed it in. It was knocked on by Ollie Watkins, and then Diaby, who I was looking at Diaby thinking, I want him at Arsenal, Moussa Diaby. If he was happy to be back up to Saka, which is going to be so hard. I mean, I don't know if there's any players that are going to come in and accept being a backup, but to Bukayo Saka, you've got to be. Yeah, you're not starting over Bukayo Saka. But yeah, Diaby smashed that in. Newcastle then scored through Alexander Isak, Botman setting him up. I thought VAR was going to give this offside. You know what VAR's like in this country. You just can't tell. But yeah, no, they didn't get the etch a sketch out and draw the lines. And yeah, he scored the goal. The third, it's a lovely finish from Isak again. He pounces on the Conser error after a great bit of play again from Anthony Gordon. And then he lobbed Martinez. He made Martinez look incredibly silly. Cash, he had a great chance to score for Villa after Watkins' shot was saved from Pope. And then the fourth goal from Newcastle. It's a great goal from the substitutes. Barnes, he's only been on the pitch a little while. So's Wilson. He runs in, lays it on for Wilson to tuck in. Wilson should have had another goal himself. It was an exact replica of the chance that he just scored previously, but he missed it. And then Harvey Barnes on his debut, league debut for Villa, he scored and made it 5 after a lovely ball by Murphy to set him up. And for me, this was a great win for Newcastle. Both teams, they're in contention for Europe this season, and Newcastle just absolutely pummeled them. They made Aston Villa look like absolute rubbish, which we all know they're not. But we know that Aston Villa are going to be there or thereabouts, just under that Champions League space, which with Champions League football, a lot of people think Newcastle are in. But for Newcastle to beat a direct competitor with that much ease, I thought was really, really impressive. And I had no idea why after the Tyrone Mings injury, and shout out to Tyrone Mings, I hope you get well soon if you're watching. I don't know why they continued playing this high line. They left Martinez as like a fifth defender slash rush goalie, and Newcastle just were like, if you're going to do that, if you're going to be silly, then like I said, we're just gonna pummel you. And Newcastle, I thought Tonali and Barnes, they both had an amazing debut for me, but Isak stood out for me. I think playing down the middle now and not out wide, Isak, I think he's going to cause this league some trouble. I really do. I think he is going to be right up there in contention as a Golden Boot contender. I know Haaland's probably going to run away with it, but if Haaland doesn't have his scoring boots on, I think Isak's going to be really up there now. And Villa, for me, if we could just want to talk about them quick, I thought Ollie Watkins was great as usual. I'm a big fan of Ollie Watkins. He got his assist. He nearly got a goal for himself. And like I said, yeah, I'm a big Diaby fan. So it's nice to see him get off the mark. I think he's gonna cause some teams some trouble as well. Next up, Brentford versus Spurs, and this was Ange Postecoglou's first game in the Premier League. Harry Kane now gone. He's got a big rebuild to do. Spurs, they got their first goal through Romero with the header. And when you have James Maddison in your team, you're always potentially going to get goals like this, because from set pieces, James Maddison's delivery is just superb. It's pains me to give Spurs this many compliments, but yeah, with James Maddison in your side, you're going to get goals from set pieces potentially, and they took one there. The equaliser for Brentford's son, he made late contact, and it was clearly a penalty again. Don't know why that was given the VAR to decide. You could tell it was a foul for me straight away. And then Buemo slotted that home. Wissa then scored Brentford's second, and it was a great bit of work from Rico Henry. And it was a scuffed shot by Wissa, but it went in. And after that, Son had a chance, and he smashed his volley wide. Emerson Royale, he got the equaliser to make it 2-2 with a nice long shot from quite a bit of range. And then Buemo, he should have got one just before half-time, but he didn't. But for me, both these clubs, I think they're going to be in a shout for Europe. Like I said, they're not going to be Champions League, but they're just going to be under. They're going to be in that Europa Conference sort of spot. And I think they're both going to be okay. I know a lot of people were worried about Spurs. I mean, I've put them. I think I put them 8th. should have had a look and jotted it down. But yeah, I think I put them 8th in the table, even without Harry Kane. But yeah, I think they're going to be in that sort of position. And they're both, Spurs and Brentford. They've both got systems and managers that drill a system. And for me, I think the system is good enough for both these sides to beat people. Basuma, he annoyingly looked back to him old self. And the only problem for me with Spurs, I do not rate this new goalkeeper of theirs, Vicario. For me, he looks like he's a potential accident waiting to happen. He did look good at all to me. But then after that, we had Chelsea versus Liverpool. And this was a really, really good back and forth game, especially at the start. It just seemed to have such an intensity in that first half that was really, really enjoyable. Salah, he cracked the bar early. And the opening goal, it's a lovely, lovely goal by Luis Diaz. It's a lovely finish, but it's all set up by the cracking ball from Salah. He just completely took Levi Colwill and said, welcome to the big boys. And yeah, he mugged him off and slit the ball in for Diaz to score. Salah, he thought he scored a second goal, but he was offside, and Chelsea equalised through Diassi. And it's a great second phase set up by Chelsea. The ball comes in, Chilwell heads it onto him, and he scores. Chilwell, he thought he got a second, he rounded Alisson, but he was offside as well. And then Jackson, just before half-time, he had a great chance to score, but he skied it over from Reece James. He should have scored that. Second half, Virgil van Dijk, he hit a lovely curling shot just over the bar. There was the incident there with a Jackson handball. Tough one. I didn't think it was a penalty when I watched it. I watched it back a couple of times, and I didn't think that it was. However, we've all seen those penalties being given. And I think if it was a smaller club in the league and not Chelsea, I think that's been given as a penalty. I think Liverpool would have got that penalty if they were playing probably anyone else that's not in the top 6. And yeah, I think they would have got given that penalty. And then after that, Darwin Núñez, he hit his strike wide. It was a good draw for me. It was a good game. I thought Chelsea were the better of the two teams on the day, and I was impressed with Chilwell. Reece James, I thought, was fantastic, but he's now injured again. And Enzo Fernandez, he was the best player on the pitch for me. He was class. He was playing like an anchor / quarterback role for Chelsea, and I really thought he handled the assignment well on the day. Jackson for Chelsea, I quite like this guy. I know he didn't score, but I like his movement. I like his bravery, and he chases things that are potential lost causes. And I don't think there's many strikers still in this league that do that. There were times where he was pinged like long balls and it was going out wide, but he was still running and chasing it down. And then instead of like playing it across, because there was no one really to play it across to, he was so advanced and so quick. He was taking the shots on and forcing the saves. There's not many strikers that do that. There's a lot that would come in or to try and do a shimmy and then shoot. He was just, yeah, he looks like he could be a problem in the league as well. I think Jackson for them looks like a really, 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 Liverpool, I thought the best for them, Salah. I thought Allison was great as normal. I thought Konate was great. I thought Zoboslai had a great debut. Konate for me, he did four man's running in the defence. I thought Alexander Arnold, as per normal, he's not a defender. And Robertson, I thought he was dreadful as well. I thought Andy Robertson was absolutely dreadful in this game. Without a central defensive midfielder, a real central defensive midfielder, I think all of these are exposed. And I think Konate has such a job to do. Van Dijk looked really, really leggy as well. He's showing signs of aging for me. Chelsea, we've all seen what they've done this week. They smashed the transfer record set by Arsenal to get Caicedo, and they've also signed Lavia as well. And they could have had at least if it wasn't a legal approach and the potential consequences that would have come from making a legal approach for a player. Liverpool, they've got Endo in, and I won't cast judgment on Endo for Liverpool. I don't know enough about him, and Arsenal, they wanted Caicedo in January. We're all well aware of that, and we had to pivot and sign Jorginho. And for me, Jorginho's been a good player for Arsenal a few times that he's played for us. I've not really blamed Jorginho for anything. I don't think Jorginho's done anything wrong in an Arsenal shirt. And so this Endo, they've had to pivot because they've not got the two targets they want. So we'll wait and reserve judgment on him. But I can't take this narrative with Liverpool that they're not backing Klopp enough. In the last 18 months, Liverpool spent £280 million and they've recouped £62 million of that. For me, it rings a bit hollow. You've spent 102 million on strikers. You spent 37 million on a winger, and you spent 95 million on McAllister and Zoboslai together. And I think you've just also done 30 million on Endo this week. You've then had Carvalho and Ramsey, who you bought, but you've loaned out. I think if it's any other manager or any other club that signed these players and spent this money, they'd be getting absolutely pelted for this. I know that when the other clubs around you are doing the 100 millions on players, as fans, you're naturally getting jealous and you're worrying. You're seeing that the other clubs are spending all this big money and they're going on a trajectory that's up and you're on one that's sort of, plateauing. And you want to, you're looking at it thinking, well, yeah, to compete, you've got to spend the money. And Liverpool aren't spending it, but to think that they're not spending any money at all, I just, like I said, it just rings hollow for me. I don't agree with it, and I don't believe it. After that, Monday Night Football, Man United versus Wolves. Sarabia for Wolves, he has a great chance after impressive work from Cunha. Cunha hit one wide also. Cunha blasted another one in the second half against the post. And then Cunha also in the second half forced another save from Onana. Varane, you knew this was coming. Varane gets Man United out of the trouble. It's a nice pass from Bruno Fernandes into Wan-Bissaka, who then lays it off to him. And Fabio Silva as well in the second half. He had a great chance for Wolves. And then the main moment of this game, and again, oh my god, it's the penalty shout, isn't it? It's an absolute joke. I mean, Wolves have got Kaladzic up there. He's about 6'10". He absolutely massive, and Onana just pounces him. He just absolutely runs into him and hits the pounce like he's Monty Brown from TNA. If you could remember Monty Brown all them years ago in TNA, he makes no attempt, absolutely no attempt to play that football at all, and it's the most obvious penalty you will ever see in your life. Yet VAR and the ref fail us once again, and we're 11 games into a season. There was a game last night, Sheffield United and Nottingham Forest, but we're 11 games into a season. 1 week into a season, and already the PGMLO have had to issue an apology. We haven't even had they haven't had 1 week without trouble, and it's an absolute joke. We've got the best league for players, for promotion, for everything. Yet we have the worst officials in the world. VAR is about as much use as Angela White's chest on a nun. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But back on the actual game, Wolves, they impressed me. I put Wolves to go down, but considering everything that's going on at that club, they they looked really, really good to me out there against Manchester United. It's the only thing they didn't do was finish their chances, and that's what they need to get better with. If they're not going to finish their chances, they're definitely going to struggle. But I thought Neto, I thought Nunes, I thought Cunha, I thought Sarabia, they were all good player. They were all good players for Wolves, and if O'Neill can keep them, because every single player for them apparently is up for sale. But if he can keep that nucleus of players, he might have a chance of keeping them up. For me, I was impressed that much that I think he could keep them up if they like I said, if they keep that nucleus of players. United, Man United for me, I thought other than Wan-Bissaka and Fernandez and Luke Shaw in spells, I thought they looked really I thought they looked really vulnerable, and they also looked really susceptible to quick counter attacks, just like Chelsea did. The Liverpool did against Chelsea. And the Argentinian Fred Elliott, the butcher, he had a terrible game. He got hooked at half time. He was absolutely awful for Man United the other night. And with United, they're never far from controversy on the pitch since Alex Ferguson left. And I feel this club, Man United, is a powder keg. I think it's going to explode. And I think it's only going to get worse with this Mason Greenwood situation, which I'm not going to touch on. It's too early in the morning to have this discussion about Mason Greenwood, but for me, it's not good. It's just gonna go off even more at Man United. I think in the next couple of days/weeks. And yeah, you're right, Mike. They do. There is no southern-based referee. It's absolutely baffling. But yeah. After that, it was Bournemouth versus West Ham. Obviously, we're going into the 3 o'clocks now. We've done all the review of the games that were televised. Going into the 3 o'clocks. Bournemouth versus West Ham. Soucek hit the post very early. Brooks for Bournemouth forced a good save, and then he forced another good save from a volley in the second half. Jared Bowen, he opens the scoring for West Ham. It was a screamer. One really high up from Pablo Fornells, and then Soucek laid it off. And Bowen finished it brilliantly. It was a really, really nice goal. Rothwell for Bournemouth. I thought he had a brilliant game, by the way, Rothwell. He hit the bar from range. And Solanke, he got the equaliser for Bournemouth. Did make me laugh. The player that West Ham have been really linked with in the week plays West Ham at the weekend and then absolutely destroys them and scores his goal. At the end there, Ings, he forced a save for West Ham. And it's a good point for me for both here. West Ham have had a lot of stuff going on off the pitch and with Moyes and their new sporting director and everything else. I think to just get a draw and get out of there was a good result for them. And Bournemouth as well. I think that was a good point for them and their new manager. And I think both these clubs are going to be fine. I think they're going to be safe. But Moyes now, he's got Alvarez and he's got Ward-Prowse coming in. Ward-Prowse will score on goals. Like I said about Maddison earlier, the delivery. Ward-Prowse's free kicks and even his penalties, he can do the job. But yeah, West Ham for me, I think they still need a centre forward. They need an out and out decent centre forward, and I still think they need defenders. And Bournemouth as well. I think Fabrizio done a here we go for it last night. But yeah, they've got Tyler Adams in the bag, and I know towards the end for Leeds, Tyler Adams sort of like chucked it in. Like quite a few of them, he did look like he was motivated or wanted to help Leeds get out the struggle that they had. But yeah, I think Tyler Adams, he'll be motivated at Bournemouth and he'll go back to being the player that I believe he was beforehand. We also had Brighton versus Luton, and Brighton had two early chances from Pedro and from Welbeck. They finally got the goal through Solly March after a lovely ball in from Matoma. Brighton, it's a soft penalty for me, but under these new rules, Lockyer's arm comes over the player and he does pull him back. So it's always going to get given. I think it was soft, but yeah, João Pedro, he stepped up and scored on his league debut. Morris, he scored the penalty for Luton. And this one, I don't know how this penalty gets given against Lewis Dunk. Again, it's another one that I've watched a couple of times. I don't think he could do anything to stop that ball hitting his arm in that way because he's on the slide. I don't know how he can. You're asking players that when they're making these movements, if they're jumping, if they're sliding, you're sort of asking them to do like a little dance or a shimmy as they're going to do it to stop. For me, there's no way that he can try and make that block, but not have his body at that angle. It just, yeah, I didn't understand why it was given, but it was a big moment for Luton and for Morris to score his goal. And Dingra, he scored for Brighton after a bad mistake from Mpanzu. And then Ferguson for Brighton, he makes it 4. Brighton, for me, again, they're another team. They're not going to be in the Champions League places. However, do not worry because I've backed you to win the Europa League. So you're getting in the Champions League that way. So don't panic. But I also think league-wise, Brighton are going to be they're a shoe in. They're a shoe in for top 6 for me easily. Brighton, they've lost players and they lose players all the time, but they just replace them with a production line of even more talented players than the ones they lose. And they've got a great manager there in De Zerbi as well. And yeah, they'll be fine. A Stupinian for me, he was quality. He caused Luton all sorts of trouble. And Luton, they really need to improve for me, and they need to improve quickly because they will have more awful days like this. 2 shout outs though, Mapanzu in the game. Other than his mistake, I thought he wasn't too bad. And he's the first player to play for a club and go from the conference all the way to the Premier League. And I've got to give a shout out as well to James Milner. 22 seasons now consecutively he's played in the Prem. So yeah, shout out to James Milner. After that, we had Everton versus Fulham. Mope, he nearly opened the scoring early. And there was another Mope chance after a great cross by Alex Iwobi. It was headed onto him from Decore, but he couldn't do it. Everton, they got a goal disallowed, and I can't believe it got checked on VAR. This is another one. This whole week, like I said, there's just so many incidents with the refs and VAR, and I thought that Bert Leno had just done a Bert Leno. As an Arsenal fan, I've seen enough of Leno to know that he has these errors in him, and I thought that he just fumbled the ball. I thought he fumbled the ball. Keane took advantage for Everton and scored. And yeah, it got ruled out though. Jimenez, he hit the post from a volley. Iwobi, he hit a lovely strike. It fell to Patterson for Everton, but he fluffed the chance. Fulham, they got the goal from Bobby Decordova-Reid. Easy as you like goal, one of them ones where it comes straight across the box. Open goal on the tap in. Pickford's started as the goalkeeper, like this side of the goal. Reid's over here, and he's trying to run back. It was absolutely. I don't know about Pickford, man. I know he gets picked for England, and he seems to do well in an England shirt, but he makes some absolute rickets. The guy. Tarkowski, he nearly equalised for Fulham after another lovely Alex Iwobi ball, and it was a good win for Fulham. This Leno, other than his errors, I thought it was a big performance. He made 9 saves in the game. And then as far as Everton are concerned, Iwobi stood out for me. However, they're another one without a striker. They're going to struggle. They make the chances. I mean, you don't have to be super worried about Everton because they're making the chances. But it's like Wolves. They're making the chances, but no one's scoring them. If they weren't making the chances as well, that's when you'd be super worried. But yeah, I think Everton could be, a somewhat replica of what they did last year, where they're making the chances, but they just haven't got a goal scorer. Sheffield United then played Palace, and Asula had a great chance on his debut for Sheffield United. Joachim Anderson, he hit a thunderbolt, but it was really well saved. Ayew headed in the rebound, but yeah, he was offside, so that got disallowed. Ayew, he put a lovely cross in for Edouard to finish. And then there was another little controversial moment. Roy Hodgson and Max Lowe had that little scuffle on the sideline, and old Croydon Roy with his Roy rage. He was ready for it. Roy Hodgson was ready for it. He was up for a fight there. It was so absolutely hilarious, and it was it was a 1-0 win in the end. Asula, he nearly got a chance at the end, but he hit the side netting. And Palace for me, obviously, Eze stands out as per. And Elise, he signed his new deal in the week, so keeping him that for me is vital for Crystal Palace. That's a great contract extension for them. Sheffield United, they had a good go, but they had that tough game last night versus Nottingham Forest, and they lost it 2-1. I did watch bits of that game, and I was impressed with Aurier for Nottingham Forest. He really really did well against them there. But going into this week's awards, just quickly, we'll ping them up here. We've got a player of the week and a goal of the week. Player of the week for me, I picked Alexander Isak from Newcastle. Now, I went for this purely on how people made me feel while I'm watching them in a game. And like I said earlier, this guy is going to cause people trouble in the league this year. He is going to be a problem. And I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed watching him on the day. Like I said as well, that second goal was class. The first one was a lovely goal as well, nicely taken. And yeah, I do believe this guy is going to be a big player for Newcastle this season. And then the goal of the week, again, it's bias, I know, but I've got to go for Bukayo Saka. It was an absolutely wonderful strike against Turner, who he obviously used to play against before in the league at Arsenal. So going into this week, we've already had the Nottingham Forest and the Sheffield United game, but we've also got today Fulham versus Brentford. We got Liverpool, Bournemouth. We got Wolves, Brighton, and then the big games are obviously Tottenham versus Man United and Man City versus Newcastle. And then tomorrow we got Villa, Everton. We got West Ham, Chelsea, and rounding out the week on the Monday Night Football is Palace versus Arsenal. So that's it. Nice and quick little Premier League show there for you. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks to everybody that joined in the comments, Mike and Matt. I appreciate you coming in, and everyone else that's viewed. And if you're watching it on replay, just leave a like and a comment. And I'm doing this on my own here today. If you support one of the clubs and you want to come on, then please get in touch with me. I want as many different fans from all the different clubs as possible to make this more of a, I love talking about Arsenal, obviously. I've talked about Arsenal for a very, very long time. But I also just love, I'm a fan of football, and I love the Premier League. So if you want to come on here and you want to talk about your club, or you want to talk about the other clubs, just like I said, please get involved. Please speak to me, and I'll happily have you on. But yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for the love and support for the first Arsenal show the other day. And thank you for watching this. And as always, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend and enjoy the football.